kids, it's Dr. Fanning again. It is Monday morning at about 7:50-ish in the morning, and I have another lesson for you. We are actually continuing our Topic 7, Lesson 2 lesson. So there's not going to be any book pages to do this week. We will do Lesson 3 next week because I want to spend a little bit more time on exploring the idea of seasons and taking an opportunity to find the patterns in our daylight and our nighttime and helping explain how that makes a season. Okay? So in a moment, I'm going to give you some little tips on some things that'll help you do better on the activity that I have for you. But the work I have today for this week, remember this is for the whole week, so you don't have to get it all done in one day. I do have a Nearpod for you. This is something I'm new. I'm going to try. Hopefully it will work for you. But in Canvas and in the email that I sent you, there is the link to join.nearpod.com, and there is a code. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. Let me know though, and I'll see if I can fix it. But I've never tried it before, so we're going to give it a go. I also have a little short read for you on hummingbirds, and we might start to see some of these in the spring. I do have another link for the activity for this week on exploring day and night, and we're focusing on how day and night can contribute to the seasons. I'm going to go over that with you in just a little bit. This one is a little bit longer because you're making some graphs, and there's just lots of paper for you to make the graph. There are video clips again, and if you have not turned in your space vocabulary, please do so. If I have seen it, I have checked you off in the grade book with a T. Okay, that is it for this week. Like I said, this one is going to be a little bit longer for you, so don't have to get it all done in one day. All right, so we're going to jump right on in to this activity, and we have talked a little bit about this at school before, so hopefully you can remember the globe and how I showed you the globe and how it turns and how it's tilted. So I've got some pictures, since I don't have a globe here, to help us out. So in looking at the hands-on activity, one of the first things we are going to take a look at is looking at the length of day and night at different times throughout the year from January to December, and they're going to have you make a line graph. Okay, so everything's set up for you. The data is already in the data table. The graph is here. If you can't print this out, you can just put some lines on a piece of paper. That is perfectly fine. Don't forget your title. Don't forget your label. Don't forget your label. They already have the number lines here, but you are going to have to put the numbers here for a number of hours of sunlight. So I'm going to put up on the screen a sample of a completed line graph. This is not one that would be for your homework. It is an average temperature for a day, but it is a line graph. Remember, a line graph takes a bit of data over a length of time. So that's why we're not using a bar graph, because bar graph's looking at distinct different pieces of data. This is taking a look at the data and how it changes over time. That's why we use a line graph. All right, so you saw the example of the average temperatures over time. That's what you're going to do with this, except you're going to use this data here for the hours of daylight per each month, per each day. So it's hours of daylight by month in Chicago. So the average number hours of daylight in January in Chicago was 9.5. So you're going to have to set it up for 9.5. Okay. And then you're going to do that in both the northern hemisphere. Then you're going to take a look at the southern hemisphere. And then you're going to take a look about at the equator. So you're going to do 3 or 4 line graphs and then comparing them as well. So there are different amounts of daylight by season, okay? But is there different amounts of daylight if we take a look at the year as a whole? That's a question to think about, okay? So when we look at the Earth, we often consider the Earth to look something like this. Okay, beautiful little Earth. We talked last week about how it rotates counterclockwise, and that's what gives us our day and our night. We also talked about how it revolves around the sun, which gives us our 365 days, 365.25 days. For those of you who emailed me, I reminded you that there's just a little bit more than 365, and that's why we have a leap year to count for that 0.25 we have every year. So we think of the Earth as looking like that, but it doesn't spin just perfectly counterclockwise. It doesn't just turn like that. It actually is tilted, like on our globe at school, more along this way. So it doesn't spin this way, it actually spins on a tilt. So when it spins on a tilt. And you're going to see all this in your worksheet because it helps explain it really good. So I love these worksheets because they do that. But because it spins on a tilt, if this is the sun, okay, if this is the sun right here, there are times in the year when the southern hemisphere is pointed closer or is pointed towards the sun, and there's times as the Earth revolves around the sun, there are times when the northern hemisphere is pointed towards the sun. That is what gives us our seasons. When the northern hemisphere is pointed towards the sun, that is our summer. And when the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere is pointed towards the sun, that is our winter because the northern hemisphere is pointed away. Incidentally, it just so happens that, it's not a perfect circle around the sun. There are times when the Earth is closer and farther away from the sun. We are actually closer physically to the sun during our winter. But because we are pointed away from it in the northern hemisphere here, we're not getting all that sunlight. We're not getting all that daytime and those hours. So you're going to see as you do that line graph, I want you to think about that we're not getting as many hours of sunlight, so therefore we're not going to get the thermal energy, and it's not going to warm up. And then when we have precipitation, it's colder, so it comes down as snow and sleet and hail as opposed to rain. So we get indirect light, which is not as strong, not as direct, not as warm, not as long in the wintertime, which makes us have colder seasons. All right, so hopefully that gave you enough of an explanation along with the video clips that I'm going to give you, along with the book that you're going to read. But if you do still have some more questions, don't hesitate to email me. All right, you guys have a great week. I'll keep checking on those fish. We've got this lesson and a couple more lessons, and then if you have gone through all these lessons that I've given you, I feel very confident that you've covered the stuff that you were supposed to cover, that you will see again next year, that you will see, in the years ahead as we review and get ready for our 8th grade NSCAS test. So have a great week. I'll be looking forward to hearing from some of you. All right, bye-bye.